those will get like Tuesday. We're booking you on Tuesday.
I dig it. I dig it. Let's see. Good to go. All right, man. I'm glad that the both of you took the opportunity, time out of your busy schedules, honestly, to have a conversation with me, because I think it's honestly one that we need to have. One of the, I will say this, Los.
Yes,
before
sir.
we jump into everything, bro, I'm going to tell you, I told one of my homeboys that I was going to have you back to have this conversation.
Okay.
He said, "Damn, you seem to bring this dude in just to bash on white politicians." So I just want to let you know that that's the moniker that you the moniker that you built for yourself. Just somebody coming in just beating the head, neck, and shoulders of white politicians, bro.
I mean, I'm equal opportunity. I'm pretty inclusive. It's enough to go around, you know. So.
There's enough.
Yeah, don't box me in. Yeah, don't box me in.
I dig. Hey. So long as I'm not on that hit list, I don't really give too much of a damn. But you know, go ahead and beat everybody else up. I also want to give you guys kudos and thank yous, because you know it's very seldom that I am amongst other darker toned people. You know, when you deal with light skins, sometimes it can be a bit much. They're always Shamar Moore biting their lip inside the camera and shit like that, you know. So, you know, I feel at home tonight. So I want to say thank you for that.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Welcome,
bro. So, man, there's been a lot of craziness going on. I don't know if it's necessarily craziness per se, but because it feels like it's just par for the course, to be honest with you. But there's been some recent rumblings about, or leaks that have come out from Republican circles, just showing people that Republicans are doing what we expect Republicans to do. There have been leaks recently from a group text message for the Young Republican Leaders of America. If you don't know who they are an organization that has a foothold in colleges across the United States. It essentially is there to build the party base and help the Republican Party have a younger demographic and a bench that they can pull from, ultimately that they can become leaders in different spaces. So part of the conversation has been these recent leaks, and I want us to take a quick listen to that while we go through it.
Audio.
Yeah, we're gonna do it that way. Let me see what's going on here. I love it. There we go. Let's see.
Politico obtained more than 7 months of Telegram chat messages between about a dozen young Republican leaders in New York, Kansas, Arizona, and Vermont. Now, MSNBC has not independently reviewed those messages, but what Politico published today shows the conservatives openly praising Adolf Hitler, making celebratory jokes about gas chambers and slavery and rape. For example, when the chair of Arizona Young Republicans asked if the New Yorkers in the chat were watching an NBA playoff game, New York State Republican Chair Peter Junta responded, "I'd go to the zoo if I wanted to watch monkeys play ball." We should note that when Politico asked for comment, the Arizona Young Republican chair declined. Junta claimed the release of the chat is part of, quote, highly coordinated year-long character assassination led by an opponent, I think a kind of internecine opponent, a fellow conservative. Out of 28,000 messages obtained, Politico identified 251 bigoted epithets in the chat. There were many more outrageous examples of racism, sexism, anti-Semitism, homophobia than we could or would want to repeat here. Here's the thing. These are not we're not talking about kids here. The age limit to the group was 40. Many chat members work inside government or party politics. One's a state senator. Another works in Trump's small business administration. Politico reports that since they began making inquiries, at least 4 members of the chat have lost their jobs or had job offers rescinded. Now, this kind of virulent hatred on display here has become quite familiar in Trump's very online Republican Party. I mean, all you have to do is find it is open a website called x.com, right? And you can see it everywhere. That one's run by Donald Trump's biggest political donor.
All right, so I want to stop right there so we can continue. I'm going to ask the question. When you guys first heard the news about this specifically, what did you guys think?
So I was not surprised. I was not surprised at all. What surprised me was essentially these aren't Charlie Kirk's boys. These aren't people that he's going to the college campuses and trying to get rah and trying to drum up the work of it. The young Republicans are people who are actually working in the establishment. So like some of these guys like 40 years old, some of these people are already in government and are just trying to represent. They're the farm teams for the big guys. And while they should know better than to not get caught, they still don't quite understand how to not get caught. And so while the conversations going in the back of their heads, going mind is not surprising, I didn't know how to do a better job of policing themselves, especially the one they basically pegged, the guy who basically started this large networks of folks who was trying to basically raise his profile by getting folks together, was the guy who said the I love Hitler thing. He's like the big guy they pegged down to. And this is months worth of documentation for this one. This is about 3,000 pages worth of actual logs of things going on and going back and forth over months, over various groups. And so if you want to, raise up your profile into the network, you would think these low hanging fruit things that get you in trouble would be the first thing you keep up with. But the administration sort of loves this thing, and they do what they can to say what they can out loud whenever they can. And so I don't see them trying to tell these guys to play good, play nice, be whatever. The rhetoric is not surprising. The fact that they got caught in such a manner is surprising, only because one guy sort of set everybody up in his zeal for power, bringing folks together, made it so everybody got caught. And because of the administration that we are serving right now, they were very hesitant to try to pretend like it was a bad thing. Yeah, and it took a while for someone to actually axe the guy at the top in other places as well.
Yeah. As you're coming in and folks are taking time out to watch this, man, as you're coming in, let us know where you're from and what your thoughts are on the recent leaks from the young Republicans as we start to have this conversation, where you're from and where your thoughts on it. Los, what's up?
Yeah, to me, it was like, I understood it. It's hard to keep your hood on all the time, and so sometimes you remove the hood too early, and they see who you are. But it's a farm. You call it a farm team, that it is. So as soon as you lose 3, there'll be another 6 to step up. It's no different than being on the block. It's a cycle, and it makes sense because this is what America is. When you raise children around slavery and rape and lynchings and dismemberments and burnings, and this is what you get. These are the children. These are the things you pass down as part of your culture. So whether it's, I don't clutch my pearls as Vice President said, because it is par for the course. It is how they've always been and continue to be.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I thought that was kind of interesting about the Vice President and his stance on it, especially given the fact of who he's married to and the kids that he has, right? For him to take such a distant stance on it. Let me say this. Let me take a step back. Did I expect him to come outright and say and just blame everybody, given the administration, given who he is? No, I didn't expect that. But I at least expected at least a little bit more empathy, and that was completely missing in his statement. I think I got the statement here too. One of the things that he said was, make sure I got that. One of the things he said was, I really don't want us to grow up in a country where a kid telling a stupid joke, telling a very offensive stupid joke, is cause to ruin their lives. Mind you, we have history of benign things happening to black men, young black men and women across this country for centuries that has cost them their lives, both figuratively, financially, and so on.
Yeah, but there's your empathy. You were looking for empathy. There it was right there. He showed empathy. That
was his empathy?
Yeah, he showed empathy to the kids that remind him of himself. He saw himself in those kids. And much like he wouldn't want his life ruined because the hood came off, he don't want their life ruined. They could have a positive future in that farm system because they share these same ideals, and we just need to coach them and make sure that they keep their mouth shut.
Keep the hoods on. Keep the hoods on.
But there's a problem with that in the fact that we have 2 JD Vances. We have the guy right now with the eyeliner and all the meme pictures, and we have hillbilly LG JD Vance, who hated Trump and said that people like Trump were the problem and wanted, he came from Appalachia and he came from these things and he broke away and now he's trying to tell the world what's going on. And then it's like, oh, never mind. I'm down with this stuff out here. He's the biggest flip-flopper in following for power, next to Marco Rubio, who should
is it flip-flopping or is it actually just people jockeying for power? Because I mean, let's keep it a buck. I believe, at least this is my interpretation of it, is that Marco Rubio, JD Vance, that their aspiration since their childhood was that they wanted to be president of the United States. And the only way any Republican is going to be able to make that inroad is if they kowtow to President Trump. So they're doing exactly what an opportunist does, which is grifting or grabbing onto,
before you debate those two, I just want to nominate Ted Cruz because he disrespected that man's wife on national TV.
Facts.
And he still went back. Facts. So to me, that's one of the biggest waffles of all time. So the top three, Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas right there. I don't know which one, but they should be mentioned all together. Cannot leave out Ted Cruz. I think
I dig it. I dig it 100%.
I think it is proximity to power. To some degree, it's proximity to power. But to the brother's point, it's like, if you came out, you came out negative at one point and now you're on the bandwagon. I mean, it is what it is. You see it for what it is.
Yeah, no doubt. Once again, if you're just jumping in, man, thank you for joining us, man. Please let us know where you're from and what your thoughts are on the recent leaks from the Young Republicans and that group chat that came out recently. If you thought that was going to be the end of it, back-to-back weeks, it was the Republican Party had it popping. It was one racist party after another racist party. So Trump apparently was supposed to be appointing a head of special counsel, this dude named Paul Ingrassia or something of that nature. And he also got exposed with some leaks from his recent chats too. So I want to share what we got on that too.
Paul Ingrassia, who is tapped to lead the Office of Special Counsel, announcing he is withdrawing his name from consideration after allegations of racism surfaced following a report in Politico where they published a series of text messages he had allegedly sent within a group chat. Ingrassia posting this on X tonight, quote, "I will be withdrawing myself from Thursday's HSGAC hearing," that is in reference to the Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee, "to lead the Office of Special Counsel because unfortunately I do not have enough Republican votes at this time. I appreciate the overwhelming support that I have received throughout this process and will continue to serve President Trump and this administration to make America great again." All of this comes just one day after that exclusive report with Politico saying that they had reviewed messages Ingrassia sent on a text chain that included a half dozen Republican operatives and influencers, with Ingrassia allegedly writing in one, quote, "MLK Jr. was the 1960s George Floyd and his holiday should be ended and tossed into the seventh circle of hell where it belongs." In another one, he wrote, quote, "I do have a Nazi streak in me from time to time." NBC News did not independently review or verify those messages.
It's hard to have a conversation like this because it seems like you're beating the same drum. It's like, what else is new? But at the same time, I got to ask the question. I think we touched on this a little bit before we jumped on. Do you think America is becoming more overtly racist again, or do you just think that this is because of social media has?
Give me a time frame. Give me a time frame that you're speaking of.
Okay. I think once between 1980 and maybe early 2000s, there was a period where, yes, there were racist moments, but I think there were more people inclined, even Republicans in this instance, inclined to say, nah, that's wrong, without all the equivocating and, balancing that we saw JD doing.
So politically, we're talking about politically correctness.
Politically correct.
Not just public wrong.
Because in the streets, it was a totally different thing.
Okay, because the crack epidemic was, okay.
Yeah. So, but then after that, social media became a thing, and next thing you know, it's like you see shit like this happening on a regular basis. So, do you think that America's once again becoming more openly racist, or do you think that this is just social media doing what social media does? Go ahead, Los.
I think it's returning to its roots. I think it's European America is tapping back into its original roots. I think that, economically and socially, America had gotten to a point. Well, let me just clarify something based on those statements too. I hate when Americans say that they have a Nazi streak in them, as if Nazis didn't come from America, as if they didn't learn the system from America.
Here we go.
All right, the Nazi system is an apartheid system that they learned in America, and in that apartheid system, since it was a colony before they were even states, they had to separate the poor white people from the natives and the slaves and the indentured servants to make them feel a little bit better. They had to work on their minds socially. So they made them believe. Now, the end of that dream around the 1970s and 1980s, when they started sending all those people's jobs overseas.
There it is.
Now people started acting nice while they were selling them out. Those wealthy Republican, investors and financial people were selling those dreams across the world. And now that it's collapsed, they have to return to that same divisive tactic that they used before, because there's not enough money to go around anymore to keep them people happy. So when the poor whites get upset, if you need to placate them, you have to be able to point to some brown people and say, hey, you will be getting this money, but they keeping you from it. And that's how they divided them the first time. And so we're just back to the roots of it. And it's a genius tactic. Everybody talks about Willie Lynch. Shit, got them people spinning. And so they're back to that, and that's where we are. So that's why you're seeing it more openly, even with or without social media. That just perpetuates it. But I think they had to return to that after Obama. How were you going to rally these people and get them to re-engage into politics and civics and their nation?
Yeah, you're right, man. Lyndon B. Johnson said that if you can convince the poorest white man that he's better off than the most beneficial black person, you can fleece his pockets for forever. And I think that's what they've gotten into, is just finding different ways to make them feel that they are supposed to be, quote unquote, better off than black and brown people. But somehow black and brown people have got their boot on the neck of white America.
They got an extra 300 million people. There's 340 of them. 340 million of them. There's 40. You're worried about 40 million of us? Get it together, man. Get it together. Man. Do the math. Do the
math. Go ahead, Che.
So the answer to your questions is yes. And then you just stop talking and stare into the camera for a minute, like what you're talking about. Yes. And this is something I have from an odd perspective. I'm an Army brat, and I spent a lot of time in my teen years, development years overseas in Germany, where all the people of all colors, all races, the kids were the foreigners to the foreigners. So that point in time, I didn't get into that thought process. Went from Georgia to Germany for 3 or 4 years and had that part. Then came back to Louisiana and got a real reality check where it was just like, oh, y'all don't understand that we got it good over here, but you got to pick on folks. And I got so many just weird sort of off-color things like, where the hell did this come from? What Bible y'all reading? What's going on with this? So it's a taught and learned situation where sort of through the 80s and the 90s, 2000, and where we got into our post-racial time with Obama, we got better. We got better in the we didn't get better. We looked like we got better. We tried to get better.
I want you to put that in quotes for real, because you said post-racial. I was like, hold up, bro.
There was no true racial harmony, but we seemed to let it ride for a bit. And now all of a sudden, social media as part of it, because you have the anonymity, you can say what you want to and be a bot or whatever. You can say all those mean, hateful things that you said in the past that if you did not actually grow out of it, you can fester it and find those communities that want to sound like you, talk like you, be like you, and blame everybody else what's going forward. You can be superior and be an actually inferior person, but you can be superior in that group and proclaim it to the world and get clicks and get views and get people paying you money for calling 5-year-olds N-words on the playground because you're persecuted because a 5-year-old may have looked funny at your kid. And so that's gives you right to cuss them out. You can do things like that.
I got to ask a tangential question then. Do you honestly think that these folks actually believe in the shit that they're saying? Or is it because everyone's got a camera in their hand, they're ready to say some shit or be an influencer in some capacity or just say some wild and reckless shit because they ultimately know it's going to get views, go viral, and they can ultimately monetize on it?
I think people have a better sense of what, how far they can go before they get stuck with a label. So if they're going to go there, they're going to go there. But they go there knowing that they have something to jump onto. That lady who cussed out the little kid and almost raised $1 million. She knew that
she hit over $1 million.
They opened up to $1 million. So she knew that in that sense of whatever, as soon as it went out there, she cried on social media that her people would support her, and oh boy, did they support her on things like that. So there's people who know that. Going back to my radio days, I worked in conservative talk radio, and I worked there because it made money, and I had no problem dealing with it. It was 10 years ago when it was big time, and it wasn't the quite the way it's right now. And so I couldn't do it now because there's just no way I could hold that face, but it was different. And my job when I was producing shows is to listen to people talk and let them talk. And sometimes they didn't want to go on the air. They just want to talk to me. And based on, I had one host that would every week when we do the show, he'd give me a different nationality. So no one knew who I was, that I was Chinese half the time. Sometimes I was Mexican. It was like, don't you people carry knives? You got your knives today? And so they didn't know who they're talking to because I sound like a white guy. So they didn't know who the hell they're talking to. And they would say just the craziest shit because they're taking to me off the air because they can't say it on the air. And they just say whatever to go along with it because they.
So you were the call.
I was a call screener. I was a producer. I was a call screener for most of the time. I filled in whatever, and sometimes moved over to producing stuff, and that's where I got to have more sort of say in what was going through. But as a call screener, my job was to keep people listening to the show, keep people going on. And I knew that when I filled in for the host, it was not my show, it was his show. So I had to keep his audience, and that's where it was. And people here in rural Arkansas, rural-ish Arkansas is basically all rural. I mean, Little Rock, we got Bentonville and Fayetteville, but it's basically rural. That's where they live. That's where they are. We may have Walmart money, but we still have the ability to believe that the we's should be separated, and certain we's should be better than the other we's. And so that's the way things just sort of roll. So they
as you're coming in, give me a second, Jay. As you're coming in, please, man, go ahead and give this video a like. Make sure you let us know where you're from and your thoughts on whether or not we're post-racial, as Jay flippantly said at this point.
So before you switch off, it's just a level of, people know who they are. People know who they are. It's just a case right now where there was a window where you couldn't be that way up front. You can be that way in the open. And now you can. And now, especially with the administration, I have to say it like that, the administration and who is running the show in the administration, they are doing all they can to hold their tongues because they just want to spit fire on TV all the time. They want to say it, and they can't because of whatever. And the guys that get caught saying it, they want to take care of them. They want to push it through. They want to get back until there's a point where they can't let them go. Trump's only had like 4 or 5 people in any high regard be canceled in the sense, with all the crazy people that are actually in the administration running things that you should be scratching your head for, but people are cheering them on because they see themselves as them. They see Trump as the vessel, the imperfect vessel that is bringing everything up to some height. So they want him to be there to show, yes, we can be that way. The problem is that way is kind of sucks. It really is bad. And if we all lived that way, we would not be better for it. But you can't tell them that.
Yeah. Steve Bannon just came out yesterday or the other day when they did an interview. Besides the fact that he said some wild shit about Trump going for a 3rd term, he said that Trump is a divine vehicle of providence, and that's why he's going to be divine vehicle of providence, and that's why he's going to be the president again in 2028. But I'm gonna go ahead and let
people believe that.
The belief is as American pie, right? The belief has been there for 20 generations. We as Black Americans are just starting to deprogram right? I grew up and I still know the theme song when Hulk Hogan comes out on stage. It's, I am a real American. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I dig it.
And then I had to learn who he is so if I'm coming from the other side, I could fall victim to that messaging and grow up in the 80s and watch brown people be the victims in everything from films to real TV to my community. Then imagine if you've never had that connection and you grew up in rural Arkansas and this is your upbringing, most of that 304, let's say out of the 340 million of them that live with the 40 million of us, right? Let's say there's probably only about 100 million of them that live near us, that's ever seen us, touched us, smelled us, walked past, had any, or even left their town. So it's very easy to grasp onto a belief of something you've never seen before. You've only been told, you've only been shown images of, you've never even had a human interaction with us. Never mind what you thought, that you never even thought we were human. So, you know, it's, and then you start to hear messaging about divinity and theology and American pride and nationalism. When you throw all these things at uneducated people, they're going to start to funnel in and walk in the same direction, whether you grab them because you're talking about their God, whether you grab them because you're making them feel good emotionally, whether you're putting other people back in their place and you're their vessel of anger, you funnel them all in back to how it was. And that was the messaging of MAGA from the beginning. Everybody knew what Make America Great was, bring us back to a pre-1964 United States of America.
Yeah, Dr. Jason Johnson recently said, he said the Republican Party doesn't exist anymore. It's a dime store front for a terrorist organization called MAGA. And I can't, to be honest with you, I know that there are people that want to make you think that MAGA is your uncle that's misinformed or uneducated and so on. But
I'll throw you a curveball though. That the Democrats are complicit.
Oh yeah, completely, 100%.
and have been co-conspirators for the last 5 decades at a minimum as well.
At the very, and I would say at the very least, since
they switched over. I would go back to
at the very least, if you're going to give them some clout, at the very least since Obama, because it seemed like they bought. Listen, I'm saying that I think that they also drank the Kool-Aid and thought that we were in this post-racial portion of the country too, and they let it just be, well, you know, so long as we continue to beat the head, neck, and shoulders of Republicans about being racist or whatever, we don't have to do nothing else, and they allowed this monster to creep back into our daily lives. But there's
always correction and often overcorrection.
There you go.
Obama was finally good, finally we fixed it, finally we have a path going forward, and the overcorrection was make America great again. There's a problem. There's way too much of a shift going back and forth. The parties themselves, and Obama, by my vote, is a B- president because he's black. Period. Because if it weren't for that, he'd be
I need you to clarify that.
B- because
I got what you were saying, but yeah,
they gave him a Nobel Prize.
Comments.
They gave him a Nobel Prize after blowing up a bunch of pirates. Why? Because he's black, and we got to give him props, and we finally we're going better, and what that. But other than that, Obama, you know, waffled on stuff and tried to do good things, but had Republicans were fighting him, so it was like, oh, Republicans have fought me, so whatever. But otherwise, he was a C+ B- president in general, and then to overcome the black guy being in charge, they went full over the top. Where at this point, remember, we met at this point in time, and we were talking about, and I said these words: there's no ways all these people in power are gonna let this guy screw it up for them. But in fact, he was the conduit for them to keep power going forward, and no one saw that coming. And because that, the overcorrection of, going back to better times, when better times meant, no one saw us on TV because no one wanted to see us on TV. If that's better times, well, they didn't have air conditioning in better times, and I kind of like it right now. So there you go.
I dig it. One of the homies we've had on the show, Dr. Dylan Rodriguez, he said historically it's always been proven that whenever this country finds a way to give black people some semblance of justice, whatever you think justice looks like, America always finds a way to swing the pendulum all the way back to the opposite end to try and course correct. And we're seeing this.
It has to survive. To maintain the white lower class from uprising and creating another revolution. We always think revolution is about the black and brown people, even though we have our own fight and our own revolution, right?
Right.
If we study their history that they taught us about this last revolution, these are people that are they're terrorism. They got it mastered. Where I'm from, they dressed up as natives and jumped on some boats and threw some tea in. Now they tell you that they threw some tea in the water. They didn't tell you they probably killed about 15, 20 people before they got on the boat, and then pin the crime on somebody else. They don't tell you that part of it, right? So that's who they're worried about pissing off. They can't piss off. You can't piss off 300 million white Americans because they will topple your economy. We think we can cripple a Target, we could cripple a couple of industries with our buying power, sure. But these people could turn the lights out. And when the farmers start to really starve and it starts to really go bad, which it seems like the boat is starting to list too far to one side that you won't be able to correct it, it's going to get ugly. Now the trick is when it gets ugly, you just don't want them looking at you. You got to point over there and be like, "Yo, they went that way with your money. They went that way," and send them into the cities that have now got some National Guard around. They got got
National Guard, got ICE, got Department of Homeland Security, got all these folks. I want to put a pin also in the fact of white people waking up and actually recognizing who the real villain is in this equation. I'll come back to that because there's a question I want to ask. But the real reason I wanted to have you guys on the show is to talk about these recent incidents, of course, but also to ask why it seems as though Black MAGA, Black Republican leadership in local and in national politics have been, as my homeboy L likes to say, has been as quiet as a church mouse pissing on cotton. I haven't heard anyone saying anything. Tim Scott has been quiet. Byron Donalds has been quiet. All the usual suspects have been quiet. So I want to get you guys to try and answer that question. Why do you think they've been stopped?
You almost said suckers, and I caught
the Freudian slip. I heard it.
I'm trying to be good. I told my kids I was going to be good, so I'm trying to be good. So
I'm gonna open to this one, and for me, it's simple because I used to work in that industry, work around the folks, and it's pretty simple. It's economic. When I worked around Republicans and worked around conservative media type stuff like that, if the folks in power are Republicans, there's work to be done. There's jobs to be going on. There's in this day and age, there are more Black Republican operatives out there on TV saying the message and somehow drinking the Kool-Aid and going along with it. But when they literally are attacking you and then expect you to show up for work the next day, you can't do that. At some point in time, you can sit back, you can do the paperwork, you can cash the checks, but you can't go on the air and when they're going to toss back. But they said these racist things about whatever. But Obama was bad. No, you can't go back to that. Like you can't toss it back to Biden's old and Biden doesn't know anything. But your guy right now is saying these things right now. And when they ask it to you face to face, you can't actually confront them. There are real serious issues. And like I've said to you many times, there should be more conservative Black people, more conservative Latino people, conservative Asians, because we should not be a monolith and should be somewhere in between where you can kind of go back and forth, and we can force liberals and Democrats to step up to the plate. But you can't if the people running the show don't want you there in the first place and don't have the respect to let you be a token to do their bidding for them. They're screwing it up for themselves, but they don't care. They are openly saying you are not like us, but we may pick you just because we got to. You stuck around after we picked enough folks for sides. You're still sitting there, so sure you can go way back, center, left field, whatever. Just don't expect anybody to toss you the ball. It literally it's openly economics, number one, and at some point people got to have some pride and realize that this ain't working at all.
I don't know if you guys saw it, but Kash Patel recently, he was said something about Happy Diwali, because he's Indian. He said Happy Diwali, some Indian holiday. And right on time, without missing a beat, white people showed up on all social media platforms, like some of the ugliest stuff I think I've ever seen. And this is supposed to be their guy. They were like, this man is subhuman. You were saying nigga and all this other stuff. I was like, God damn, like they went hard on this dude. So, but you would think that after seeing things like this over and over and over again, that people wouldn't fall into the trap of being so quick to be embraced by power, by the white power structure, because ultimately that same white power structure is going to turn on you the way it turned on Bhavesh Ramaswamy and turn on Cash Patel.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the American way. That's the way they divided us in the field.
Okay.
The things, so, and I don't even want to pin it on Republicans or Democrats. Like even the conservative liberal, we have that little West spectrum. We should be debating. We should be debating ideas, idea by idea, right? Because once you start lumping people together, there's Democrats that are just as problematic and just as racist as these Republicans.
We talked about the liberals the last time.
Say the same thing. There are black Democrats that don't say anything when that stuff happens. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So there were a lot of black people when Joe Biden was calling people super predators, and then when he was running for president. What I've noticed is that
after the fact.
How we embrace it, we even divide it in culture. So I'm from New England, right? As a Yankee boy, we think, the white people and black people tell it, the liberals and the will tell you, we're enlightened up here, and we don't do that visceral racism. We don't fly Confederate flags. We do all the same mechanisms in the background, but we don't do it right in your face. And for some reason, sometimes we're programmed to give them credit. Boss is nice. Treats us good. There's more room in the Democratic pool for more of us, more blacks to be represented. So I can understand why, a black Republican is wiggling in this, there's a bigger lane now for them to get in, and there's a position. The same thing happens to young black Democrats. And they're boxed out by whites that have been running the system and the same power structure on the other side.
Okay, I dig it. I want to check this question. Simple Work came in and said, my question would be, if you have issues with the Democrats, why wouldn't you go independent instead of being a Republican? I think
because you have no say whatsoever if you go independent. That's the whole problem. If the middle of the world, middle of the nation is where we stand, but you can't have a middle ground candidate because they don't play that way. You got to be a Democrat, you got to be a Republican, or you don't get any say in the power structure. You can be.
Hold on. I want to challenge you on that just a little bit because
we're talking federal level. We're talking about federal level right now.
We're talking about federal level. Yeah. On a local level, you can be who you want to, and but on a federal level, if you control the purse coming down, or on a state level where you control what in between.
Yeah, two-party rule. It's gang shit. It's gang shit.
No. It is Bloods and Crips type shit.
Democrat. Yeah. It's not.
No, it is Bloods and Crips type shit. But the reason why I'm challenging you is there is always been this golden group of people, these independents, these moderates in between that we see the politicians chase after every single fucking election cycle, every midterm, every general, everything. I think the question is there. I think it's a poignant question. Why wouldn't you be an independent where folks are going to want to chase after you to break the balance versus just being a Republican or being a liberal?
It's a grift. It doesn't exist. It doesn't work out. It's just not there. You can make enough.
So you think being an independent is a grift?
Yes, you can make enough runs as independent.
As a candidate. Just to be clear, we're talking about as a candidate.
As a candidate.
Right.
You can make enough runs to be what's his name? The guy that runs
Bernie
for president.
Sanders.
Not Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is independent, but he works with the Democrats because that works. Angus King. Same way, but he I think he congregates with the Republicans. It's just there was a slot to run against somebody who was in that spot, and he made that. And I had to say the Asian guy that ran for president, but the Asian guy that ran for president who's trying to cause this new party and bring in people from both sides that obviously isn't working.
Yang
on TV. Yang. If it keeps him on TV, he was on a panel the other day just talking about what's going on in New York, what's going on with the federal government, but no one's going to vote for him, and not just because he's Asian, because he has no legs to stand on.
But just to that point, I just want to give people, I don't want people to get lost in it, especially I saw that comment, and I think that it's worthy of saying there's what people believe is moderates in terms of the general public being in the middle. We usually use the moderates. MLK used the term moderates to talk about white people, that 300 million people in the middle that say that for equality, but will stand there. It might not go to the lynching, but they're not coming to get justice either, right? In the political terms, if I'm running, if there's a race for whatever office, a federal office, and out of that population, let's say there's 100 people in that population, there's 100 votes, And I know 33% of them are Democrats. And I know, I also say 40 and 40. 40 are Democrats, 40 are Republican. There's 20 left. Let's say that they call themselves independent. I still, either side I'm on, I still have to chase the 40% first, right? I still got to focus most of my efforts on the 40. The 20% is never going to get more of my energy than my base of 40. I'm going to try to pick off. So in talking points, I'm going to try to say a few things that the independents that lean right might get them to lean right, and the ones that lean left, lean left. But either way, they're going to break. They're going to break. Either they're going to throw their vote into a pool that can't win, or they're going to come along. Because at the end of the game, at the end of the day, it's a numbers game. So that's the only reason why a candidate can't do it, because the parties won't allow a third party to get a foothold. And the human consciousness kind of won't allow a third party to get a foothold. You program to go Democrat.
Before we jumped on, I did joke with you and tell you that last time we had you on, you were beating the neck, head, and shoulders of white liberals. I need you to give some of these black politicians and black MAGA some smoke too, bro. Because even if, real talk, even if these folks like the Byron Donalds and Tim Scotts, even if they haven't come out and said anything, it's been interesting to me that the media hasn't even asked these dudes any questions about none of this shit. I would think you would want to know from these folks.
I don't.
What their thoughts on.
Here's where I'll give you some. You want smoke for some black politicians? Here's my smoke. I'm going to give it.
Go ahead, bro.
The black Democrats, right? As we're facing this turning point,
he said black Democrats.
Yeah, as we're facing and the black independents, right? Oh. I don't have any and I say this because I don't have any expectations from the black Republicans. They're the dominant party in all three, branches of the legislature now, of our government. So they're already in power. I don't have an expectation of them. Where is the mobilization, the education? Where is the messaging from these grassroots believers that are about the people, that are about equity? Where is the counter message when they keep saying the government is frozen because they're trying to give money to non-resident?
Yeah.
Where is the counter message? If it's the truth, why aren't you putting it out there? Where's your PACs? Where's your super PAC money putting on a commercial? Where's your ads? Where are your press conferences? They're sitting in silence, just saying, "Oh, they're so bad over there. They're so bad over there." While some of the black Republicans are getting punked, some of the black Democrats are just playing punk. They're just saying, "Here's your moment. We ain't our ancestors. Here's your moment. Here's your civil rights moment. Federal rights being stripped from people in the streets, community police coming into your community, policing, military coming in, racist messaging coming in every day." I mean, I like what the mayor of Chicago doing. Shout out to him. But where is it across the board? Where is it across the board? Mayors, governors, and I like Governor of Maryland. I like Brother Wes Moore is doing great work too. So I don't want to just be.
And the mayor of Baltimore too. They've been holding it down for real. Yeah. But I dig it 100%, man. But at the same time, I think
where's Obama now? How come he's not saying nothing?
No. Don't. Okay. To be fair, and you already know, I'm not necessarily the biggest Obama fan, but to be fair, he has been more vocal than any president prior to, given circumstances. Because George W. Bush is there.
Say nothing. Yeah.
George W. Bush is there. He hasn't said nothing. Clinton is there. He hasn't said nothing. Biden has been mum's the word. I mean, he's dealing with his own things, but I mean, it is what it is. So I give it to him for saying something, because typically the expectation is for presidents not to former presidents not to lean into.
These are unprecedented times.
I'm trying to show him some grace.
Vice President Harris. I mean, I know she popped up and had a viral moment.
Man, don't even get me started on Vice President Harris, because she's more concerned about running for president at this point and promoting than she is about doing anything else. And at this point, to be 100% funky with you, bro, I'm watching her make her rounds with this book tour, and I'm thinking to myself, you haven't learned anything from the last election, because nobody knows who you are. You should be out there like Gavin Newsom, regardless of if you like them or not. I'm talking about the optics and the politics.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean about Black Democrats. They're not even playing the optics game. There's not even good messaging.
That is 100% right there. The Democrats have terrible messaging. They can't put together a message. All they can say is Trump bad, and Trump is bad. Why is Trump bad? Because he's bad. Well, what are you going to do about it? We're going to shut down the government. Okay, how's that help? But we're going to fight for you now. Why didn't you fight for us 8 months ago? Why did you put this thing on latest now? Why did you keep him out of office a year ago?
There's a saying.
Bad
There's a saying that Democrats are always fighting the last war or running the last election, because keep it a buck, if they were really serious about what they were into, when this big beautiful bill was being formulated and put together before, this is when they should have shut the government down. Not now, because you could have gotten all the concessions that you wanted if that was really supposed to be the case. But you waited until now and got all this uproar, and now you're like, okay, well, I guess we're trying to tell people we're fighting, but I mean, what else are we going to do? Like, it just, all of it just looks very messy. And it's been hard to even have conversations with people about being in the political system when you watch things like this happen. Because they don't, one, they see the Republican Party and they say, okay, well, we see that that's a whole mess, and I don't want to be categorized or seen as a racist. But at the same time, the folks that I probably do lean towards more politically, they're not doing shit either. So it's like, so what purpose does it mean? And there's really no, at this stage, there's a lot of folks that would argue that there's no real delineation in terms of the party system or the party.
I would say that exactly. They're both the same.
It's, right. And because of that, I've always told people my involvement in politics, I always try to keep it local. I'm more concerned about your
local politics and national.
Your city councilor, your state representative, your state senator, because no matter what's coming down, that's who depends on your vote the most. So that's where you have the most political leverage, right? So I saw the comment about someone only being able to vote in the not being able to vote in the primary. Like that's where primary votes really matter in local elections or nonpartisan elections in your local town. So that's where I would urge people. While it is frustrating to be stuck in a two-party system when they're really birds of the same, two sides of the same coin. Yeah. The local stuff is where people need you. So we have more Westmore. So we have more Gavin and Newsom. So the Democrats have gotten lazy and haven't created a farm team, right? They haven't spent 20 years creating a farm team. They haven't won. And I learned this working for a white Irish.
There's no bench for the Democratic Party.
Democrat kind of Republican in Boston when I was a legislative aide back in the early 2000s. And he won he represented all of Boston, but won most of it without really campaigning in black and brown neighborhoods until he kind of brought me in and a couple other staffers to kind of establish relationships there. And strategically, it didn't make sense for him to wake up neighborhoods that weren't his base. And I think that even us as black Democrats that have been in office and that are in office, sometimes we don't increase the number of voting people because it makes the job easier, right? I represent 60,000, but I can win at 10,000 votes. That means I only really answer to 10,000 people.
You're right about that.
If I change that number from 10,000 to 60 to 50,000, while that would be fantastic and transformational for a city and a district, it's going to make me work a lot harder, a lot more harder.
You're right about that.
And that's the sleeping giant that the Democrats have failed to wake up for the last 20, 30 years. And they got lucky with Obama. They got lucky with Clinton. But typically those were just quick autocorrects, right? Those were just kind of blips in the overall scheme of 30 years. So
we're seeing that here in Arkansas, obviously because it's been red forever. But this was a state that actually nominated and elected in fairly decent people who did some things going forward. And then Sarah Huckabee Sanders came home and won the governorship after spending 3 years not having press conferences and not doing her job. And she has to lock on what's going on here because things run red. It just does. And so if that's the person there and she's backed by Trump, then that's what you have here.
Yeah.
The people that before that came into play, Tom Cotton, who literally came out of central casting, like if you're going to go to a lab and pour in some chemicals,
and create a white politician,
Republican, this is Tom Cotton. Yeah. He would probably be in the running for president in the next couple of cycles if Trump didn't blow it up for everybody. And so he's kind of stuck.
Oh, the dude that keeps his jacket off, never wears his jacket in the chamber.
That's not Cotton. That's
not Cotton. That's man, that's the wrestling guy. But stuff like that. But but here in Arkansas, we vote for folks like that. And so right now we had Chris Jones who tried to run against Sanders as governor. Now he's running against in my district the senator to try to take that spot because it's a better jump going forward. Where gerrymandering is what we do, and where voter suppression is what we have, and where bad information is, You're going to lose anyway. So why are you getting out there to vote? It becomes a thing. So suppression
that's a whole other conversation than voter suppression.
Yeah, but and I don't mention this to be contrary, like, but even these Republicans ain't grown in a lab. Like, this is, being a boy from Boston, this is where I dream that they're raised from, right? Republican Arkansas gerrymandering has got to go back since, when we had to put an X on the ballot, right? That's got to be 3/5 compromise type conversation.
It is. So, here it is.
That's farm team. And I mean that, I mean that with pun intended, like that.
And with everything.
Farm team.
All right, I'm gonna let you guys run because we was only supposed to really kick it for 30 minutes, but we got into the conversation, and I appreciate you guys for it. Last question I'm gonna ask you guys before we take a wrap. I'm gonna go back to what Los was saying about white people waking up and essentially crippling the economy if they really figured out who the real villain was in this equation. Given what you said about the mayor in Chicago, Mayor Brandon Johnson, he recently called for a general strike in America all across the board. Do you think that that's possible? Because we see it happen in Europe all the time. France, they do it. Greece, they do it, where every working blue collar, gray collar individual is like, fuck it. I'm not going to work. You're going to respect my labor. You're going to respect my sweat and my equity until you fix what you need to fix. Do you think that that could possibly ever happen in the United States?
Possible? Possible, yes. Probable? Highly unlikely. And I was briefly summed up by the difference between Europe and America. In Europe, they've had enough experience with villains that they know who the villain is. In America, the brainwashing still new enough that most of the majority still embraces the villain. We just started doing it with gangster movies, right? With the underdog, but they've been doing it since Cowboys and Indians. They've been doing it. They've been embracing the villain. They put it into their culture. Their culture is to embrace the villain. So no, they're never going to see it coming in time until it all falls down. Then they're going to be like, "Oh, it was right there in front of us." Yeah, this is their. This is American culture. I don't think that they'll stop.
I dig it.
We are too different of people, and we cannot come to any sort of general consensus on any sort of polarity to do that, to make it work. We could not figure out how to do it and organize it. There could not be a national strike of all people, because some people would find a way to not be one of all people and then blame those people for what's happening.
I think that's fair enough. I appreciate you guys for taking the time out, man, having a conversation with me, man. I told you, just like I told you Los the last time, there's a saying that says that you can never really fully achieve being your best self without having good people in your corner to help you do it. Right. I love the both of you. I really appreciate you guys for helping me to be my better self. Thank you guys for joining. And I guess we'll check you guys in the next time, man.
Appreciate it.
Peace.